This is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I am Toddy One Skip. Welcome to our world, our little channel, the place where we call home when we are online. Some of us, I call it home because I'm here. We eat breakfast, lunch, dinner. What are we eating? Tapioca pudding came to mind. Don't ask me why. I just had some lobster egg roll. It was all right. And I'm drinking my coffee. My coffee! Guys, there's almost 13,000 of you. There very well might be 13,000 of us now. And for 12,999, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys are changing my life, and I want to thank you for that. And I hope that I'm giving you something in return for that. Guys. Oh, and yes, thank you for all of the super chats, the memberships. I'm sorry, the memberships, the super thanks, the PayPals, the Cash Apps. Thank you for all of that. Thank you so much for all of that, guys. Thank you. Guys, I have one question though. You ready? Why did it have to be so brutal? So I was listening to Anxious Ant. You guys know I love Anxious Ant. They make me laugh. Those girls make me laugh. And then I was watching a new YouTuber. I don't know if she's new. I shouldn't say that. Somebody with it looks like their channel's starting out. From Lindsey Unfiltered. So Lindsey Unfiltered. And she put out some shocking crime scene photos about 2 weeks ago. I've seen those, but they made me think. They made me think because Anxious Ant made me think. And then here, because Anxious Ant has the idea, I think, I shouldn't be speaking this, that maybe the neighbor, David Blanchard, had maybe something to do with something. Maybe.
I don't know yet. We're trying to figure that out. Yes.
He's the guy that lied 3 times.
Maybe. We also know that there was a theory that the taxi driver waited with Nick outside of Gypsy's home the night of the unaliving of her mom, so the morning, for 45 minutes. That has come out to be untrue because that was never, ever spoken about when they spoke to the 2 taxi drivers. That didn't come out. That would be something. And then to tip them $10, so the guy's sitting out there for 45 minutes and he has to take them somewhere. Yeah, I don't think a taxi driver is going to be happy sitting outside for 45 minutes. That just doesn't make any sense. And being that it was never said, I don't know where that information came from. So let's just talk about things that we definitely know. Okay? And then we can speculate. So Lindsey from Unfiltered said their house was a mess. We already saw photos. They look like hoarders. And I have completely, over and over again, have said what a mess Gypsy is. Every place she lives is a fucking mess. It can't be the places. It's got to be Gypsy. But there's 2 or 3 wheelchairs found in that house. And most of those wheelchairs have a bunch of shit on top of them. And really, doesn't seem to be a lot of place for a wheelchair to get around in the house with all of the bullshit and the mess that is around that house. We already know Gypsy didn't need the wheelchairs. But Lindsey made a comment that I have to say, I can't, and firsthand, I can't support. And she said, the house looked so bad that it doesn't look like they went anywhere. I had really good friends of mine. They were an older couple, and they were just slobs. They didn't clean very well. They were always out. But they just didn't know how to put things away, didn't want to put things away, didn't care. So I'm just going to have to tell Lindsey Unfiltered, listen, firsthand, I've seen that. And I have to disagree with that. That doesn't mean that they were stuck inside. I would say that they were stuck inside for a period of time because since the supposed autopsy reports came out, we see how sick DeeDee was. And, you know, you could put a whole... DeeDee weighs... I don't weigh 150 pounds. That woman weighed 255 pounds. She was the same size as me. I weigh about 130, 134 pounds. I think I'm already 20 pounds overweight. or at least 14 pounds overweight, whatever. She also had diabetes, gout. Guys, you know what she had because it's in the autopsy report. We've seen it, the autopsy report. So now, and supposedly there was no drugs for DeeDee in her toxicology report, but sick like that, no drugs, no nothing. So I have to sit there and say, why so brutal? Why was the unaliving so brutal when it didn't have to be? DeeDee couldn't even help herself. So why was the unaliving so brutal? And my question for Anxious Ant, here's something to think about, Anxious Ant. When you're sitting there talking about David Blanchard, you saw the state of that house. DeeDee could have been anywhere in that house. You could have lifted shit up. So the fact that he opened up a door and said that he didn't see DeeDee in the bedroom, that was one of the things he said, right? There was so much shit around that house. DeeDee could have been anywhere. She could have been anywhere. If there was really wrongdoing that wasn't at the hands of Gypsy, she could have been anywhere. Somebody could have thrown boxes on top of her and made it look like she was gone with all that shit in the house. So David Blanchard, full of shit. And I was reading from a nurse where a nurse said, do you know the smell of blood? You can smell blood, and you can smell blood. Obviously you can. You know that there's animals that definitely their nose goes way up in the air and they go after it. We know that in water. We know that on land. Well, blood smells, and that much blood would have smelt. He would have went, yeah, something ain't right in there. But to go into a house that is a fucking mess. Sorry, Gypsy, but it was. To have debris everywhere, boxes and just shit everywhere, and say, I opened up a door, I looked inside and couldn't see the person. That room was a hoarder's den. No, you couldn't see anything but fucking a mess. So David Blanchard now is coming out as somebody, he's not coming out as anything. These reports and his name is coming out to where maybe was he involved? How? Why? Could there have been something going on between him and Gypsy? I mean, Gypsy was promiscuous as fuck. We know this. Could she have promised something to somebody? Help me do this, and this way I can leave, and maybe Nick could take the hit for it. We won't say anything to anybody. But Dan was mentioned by Nick. I would love to. What was that about? Just Nick, finish your thought. What was that about? But the big question is, why so brutal? Why that kind of death for your mom? You could have drugged her, so much so, and you could have put like a washing basin under her head. She could have drowned. This, when she was 100% alive, without any numbing agent, goes beyond brutality. It's merciless. It's soulless. What could her mom had done to her to make that okay? Even if the bullshit she said was true, though, no dog collars anywhere, no dog leashes anywhere. So why was this the unaliving that you chose for your mom? You had so many drugs, you could have drugged her to death. She could have just died in a comatose fashion. This was something else. So this was because I totally believe, again, Nick was not supposed to leave the house that night. Nick was supposed to go down. It was supposed to look like a robbery. I totally believe it was supposed to look like a robbery gone bad or a home invasion, something. But then I think people started backing out, and she found herself afraid that the only person that she had was Nick. And then I showed you, and you guys could see, not that I showed you, but a few of you hadn't really seen the interrogation of that cop talking to Gypsy. Because if you watched it, you saw that he kept giving her ways out. He didn't believe it was her until Nick started saying the same thing over and over again. And his story was true. His story made sense. Her story was all over the place. It was wigglewam. You couldn't believe it. Nothing. Everything she did, she fucked up on her own. And Nick is inside. So I've had somebody say to me, hey, idiot, shut up. You haven't heard about double jeopardy. Fuck you. And don't talk to me like that. It's not double jeopardy if there's a new charge, dumbass. I could speak in that language too. That's not the way that you argue with somebody or bring something to the table. Don't do that anymore. I'll ban your ass. Guys, the thing is, we don't have to agree, but address the issues at hand. Some guy, David Blanchard, a neighbor, not related, walks into the house and says, oh, I don't see her. I opened up the door. I looked. I didn't see her. But you couldn't have. To get to see every inch of that house to find out where somebody was, it would have taken a lot more work. Again, the house was a fucking mess. She could have been under an avalanche of boxes that fell down because it was a hoarding situation in there. That's what it looked like. You guys could see that. You could clearly see that. However, I will say that Lindsey Unfiltered brought up questions that were valid. Why were the garbage cans emptied? In a house like that, seriously, garbage cans shouldn't be empty. They should be overflowing with garbage. Why were they empty? In the sink, she showed photos. Why was the sink empty? There would be dishes up the yin yang yang. You know what I mean? So why was things that would naturally be okay to have, like a garbage with garbage in it and a sink with dishes in it, be empty and the house be a pigsty? You know, we're never going to find out what happened here. We're not going to find out what happened here unless Nick knows something we don't know. But if he's convinced he unalived DeeDee, whether it's true or whether it's not, he's convinced of that. I don't know that he's still holding Gypsy to his heart. He has to see at this point that she used him and she's called him nothing but stupid, and he's the one that unalived her, and I'm not the murderer, and you know, can't you see the difference? He was the one that did it. I could never do that. She had more bruises on her than he had on him. She's the one that came up with this genius way of unaliving her mom. Instead of just feeding her mom a bunch of medication and putting a bowl of water next to her head where she could have just died peacefully, she came up with this. Why so fucking brutal is my question. Why this? Why this? This is what I want to know. Why this? Guys, any idea on why it would be so brutal except for the fact that Gypsy's sick? Worse than we ever know. And then people are saying, oh, leave her alone. Yeah, okay. She's having a kid. She's having a kid. It's just like the woman that was thrown in the car by Wade Wilson, his ex-girlfriend, and she was tied up and stuff like that. Just like she's trying to get a lawsuit to say, hey, listen, you guys were negligent. You owed the public the truth. You should have kept him in jail. He viciously attacked me. But they didn't. And now 2 women are unalived because of that. For that same reason. For that same reason. Because some of us don't think that baby's safe. That's why. So for those people that say, you know, she had to unalive her mom to leave, why'd she have to do it that way? Why'd she have to do it that way? She could have fed her mom a bunch of medication and thrown a sheet over her head. Why'd she have to do it that way? So brutal. So vicious. Why? Because it wasn't about unaliving her mom. It was about making a scene, unaliving her mom, and making a scene to make Gypsy look like another victim. Guys, tell me what you think. Tell me why. Why so vicious? Why so brutal? What was the purpose of that? It had to have been to create a scene at the scene. And then that went wrong when the other person said, yeah, I'm fucking out of here. And that person has a lot more apparently on Gypsy than Gypsy had on them. Maybe because Gypsy had more to do with what happened there. What do you think? 2 unalivers. One of them's a neighbor, maybe? I don't know. One of them's maybe Dan. I don't know. But the other one's Gypsy. That's what I think. Guys, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip. Tell me what you think. I'm interested in knowing what you think. Guys, don't forget, be better today than you were yesterday. Not half as good as you'll be tomorrow. Always, always be kind. Never be any kind of Blanchard in any way, shape, or form. Don't even own the last name. Guys, be good. All right. Thanks.